I never believed in justice. Not the kind they sell in courtrooms. Not the kind painted in hospital brochures. And definitely not the kind whispered behind masks and latex gloves. But I did believe in her. My little sister. My storm in a jar. Lyra had this wild way of pulling the sun into every room she entered. Even when her lungs were failing. Even when her skin turned paper pale and her breath came in shallow gasps. She made me believe in something good. That maybe life wasn't just a long hallway of locked doors. Until the day one slammed shut, and no one paid for it. We grew up in Graybridge. A nowhere city that dressed itself like it mattered. Concrete bones. Neon signs hiding rot. You walk its streets long enough, you start to smell the lies under the perfume. Our parents? Ghosts with flesh. One drank himself invisible, the other left her soul in some motel bed a decade ago. So it was me and Lyra. Always me and her. She had cystic fibrosis. But to her it was just a word. A hurdle, not a sentence. I'm not dying, she'd say, flicking her forced stand like it was some fashion accessory. I'm just allergic to boring. That kid made hospital walls look like playgrounds. And me? I made sure no one ever saw her cry. I was 26 when everything cracked. She was 17. Dr. Callan Morris. He was new. Polished. One of those golden boy types hospitals like to show off. Big resume. Smooth voice. Perfect teeth. Said he came from Halwick Medical, whatever the hell that meant. I didn't trust him. Maybe it was the way he looked through people, not at them. Maybe it was the way he called my sister, kiddo, like he was rehearsing warmth he didn't feel. But Lyra liked him. Said he listened. Said he didn't treat her like glass. That should have been my first warning. Predators smile with their teeth before they show their claws. She started declining fast. It didn't make sense. Her charts, her meds, everything was stable. But Lyra knew her own body. And she kept saying something felt wrong. Callan brushed it off. Psychosomatic stress, he called it. Teen anxiety. Even the nurses started treating her like she was being dramatic. So when her lungs collapsed 3 nights later, no one was ready. I got a call at 3:14 a.m. By the time I got to the hospital, they were already wheeling her into emergency ventilation. I saw her hand. Blue fingertips. Shaking. Trying to reach for someone who never came. She never walked out of that room again. She died 11 hours later. Alone. Gasping. The autopsy said complications. I said, bullshit. Something was missing from her file. Medications she was supposed to be given weren't logged. There were treatment delays. Dozens of them. And then, the nurse was shaking hands. Dana came to me. She didn't say much. Just 5 words. I think he did it. Callan. The prodigy. The fraud. The man who let her die. You ever felt your own heartbeat stop while still breathing? That's what it feels like when the only person you love is taken and you realize it wasn't an accident. It was someone's choice. I asked questions. I demanded answers. But Graybridge General buried it fast. Internal reviews. Closed doors. Sealed reports. Callan was transferred 2 weeks later. No charges. No inquiry. Like she was just a smudge they wiped off a window. That's when I broke. I stopped sleeping. Stopped talking to anyone. Her room stayed untouched. Her toothbrush. Her hoodie. Her favorite notebook with all her stupid little dreams and anime sketches. And on the last page, an ink barely dry. If I ever die, it's not because I lost. It's because someone cheated. That was the moment I stopped grieving. And started hunting. I wasn't going to the police. I wasn't filing some petition. Justice wears a blindfold. But I had eyes. Callan thought she was forgotten. Thought I'd disappear like all the other big brothers who didn't make noise. He was wrong. I started with her file. Then the nurse's statement. Then hospital emails. Then a login. Then a time code. Then a missing vial. Then a lie. One night, I found a folder buried in a backup drive the IT guy forgot to wipe. A medication order never signed. A drug that was never given. A dosage withheld. And Callan's name at the bottom. Signed. Dated. Stamped after her death. He falsified her records. That night, I broke my own mirror. Looked at my reflection and said, "You want revenge, Cashin? Then be someone worth fearing. Because now I'm not grieving. I'm planning. He doesn't know I found him. New city. New clinic. New mask. But masks crack. And I'm going to peel his off, one layer at a time. Because I'm not just going to expose him. I'm going to make him feel every second of what she felt. The breathlessness. The helplessness. The silence. I'm going to take everything from him. Like he took everything from me. And I'm going to start with someone he never expected. I used to believe revenge would feel like fire. Like gasoline in my veins. Explosive. Loud. But it's quieter than that. It creeps in like a virus when you invite in. One that whispers, don't you dare stop breathing until they do. Callan changed his name. He's not Dr. Callan Morris anymore. Now he goes by Dr. Caleb Hart, and he plays the saint in a boutique clinic outside Halvern, a place where the rich go to feel better about being broken. Where holistic wellness is sold in lavender-scented lies. But no matter how much cologne you pour over rot, the stink seeps through eventually. I rented a basement flat across the street. I've watched him for 31 days. Same routine. Same swagger. Same God complex. But he's not alone. She shows up every Tuesday and Friday like clockwork. Blonde hair. Navy coat. Soft voice. Always bringing him coffee and a nervous smile. I thought she was just another intern at first, until I saw the tattoo on her wrist. A hawk feather. Same one as Callan's. Different side. Their family. Her name is Reese Hart. 28. Pediatric nurse. Smiles like she's apologizing for existing. She works in the city hospital, not the clinic. Different badge. Same blood. But here's the thing, Reese. She's not clean. A few records buried in hospital HR logs. A disciplinary note for an unreported medication error. The year? Same as Lyra's death. I thought Callan acted alone. I was wrong. Reese was there. Maybe not in the room, but definitely in the cover-up. One of the signatures on that falsified logbook? Hers. And that changed everything. I started small. Phone calls from fake patients. Cancelled last-minute appointments. Emails from invented names requesting meetings that never happened. I wanted to rattle him. See how much of the golden boy mask would slip. But Callan doesn't rattle. Reese does. And that's when I knew she was the key. The crack in his armor. She was the one who could bring it all crashing down. So I followed her. I shadowed her commute, learned her grocery days, even found the little cafe where she reads trashy romance novels in the back booth like no one's watching. And I made my move. It was a Wednesday when I bumped into her outside that cafe. Accidentally, of course. Dropped my coffee. Apologized. She smiled. Said it was okay. I offered to buy her a new one. She hesitated, then said yes. We talked for 40 minutes. I made her laugh. The guilt in me, whatever was left of it, whispered stop. But I didn't. Because I saw something in her eyes. A flicker. Not innocence. Fear. She knew something. We met again the next week. This time at a bookstore. Then again at a park. I never pushed. Just listened. Then, one night, just after 11 p.m., she called me. She was crying. She said she needed someone to talk to. Said she couldn't sleep. Said, there's something I did that I can't live with. And just like that, she cracked. Reese told me about Lyra. Not by name. Not at first. Just a girl. A patient whose death didn't make sense. She'd overheard Callan mention corrective protocol and saw him tear up a dosage slip before disappearing into the surgical wing. She said she wanted to report it. She tried. But someone higher up shut it down. Chain of command, they told her. Don't ruin your career over a theory. And when the hospital quietly changed her rotation, she stayed silent. I should have said something, she whispered. I see her in my dreams. I almost told her then. Almost screamed that girl was my sister. But I didn't. Because this was the leverage I needed. Reese was drowning in guilt. And guilt is a powerful blade. I convinced her to talk more. Dig deeper. Said I was a writer working on a piece about medical corruption. She believed me. She even agreed to give me access to her hospital ID. Said she wanted to make it right. I smiled. Told her she was brave. Inside I was shaking. Because now I had everything I needed to get behind the doors that destroyed Lyra. The first place I went was the archive room in Halvern General. It was like a tomb, cold, silent, and full of secrets no one wanted found. I searched for 3 hours before I found it. Patient hashtag A09-1783. Lyra Vale. But someone had scrubbed it. Half the file was missing. And the signature on the deletion form? Dr. Caleb Hart. Callan. He'd not only changed his name, he'd rewritten history. But even he couldn't erase everything. Because in the margins of a physical logbook in tiny, rushed handwriting, I found a note from a tech. A name. Ordered by C. Hart, confirmed by Reese. Delay logged. C. Thalivax shortage protocol. Thalivax. An experimental drug. one that stabilizes pulmonary function in late-stage CF patients. Lyra was supposed to get it, but she didn't, because Callan withheld it. Why? And more importantly, who else helped him do it? Later that night, Reese called me again. Said she had something. An old backup drive she'd been too afraid to open. Come over, she said. I think it's time. I drove there. Heart pounding. She opened the door, pale and shaking. We sat on her kitchen floor, laptop between us. She plugged in the drive. And then, a folder appeared. Backlog_17A_confidential. She clicked it. Inside were dozens of documents. Internal emails. Dosage logs. A message from Callan marked urgent. And then, a video file. We opened it. It was security footage. Grainy, but clear enough. Date stamp. One night before Lyra's collapse. It showed Callan in the storage room. Swapping labels. Repackaging something. Then Reese enters. They argue. He shouts. She cries. He hands her a form. Forces her to sign it. And then he smiles. I turned to Reese. Tears in her eyes. Voice trembling. I didn't know what he was really doing, she whispered. He said if I didn't sign it, he'd blame it on me. Said he'd ruin my career. I was scared. I stood. Walked away. Punched the wall so hard the plaster cracked. Then I turned back to her. And for the first time I dropped the mask. Lyra, I said. The girl you're so guilty about? She was my sister. Reese's face turned ghost white. She opened her mouth. But before a word came out, a window shattered upstairs. We froze. Then came the sound of footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. Inside the house. Someone else was here. Watching. Listening. And now, closing in. It took my brain a few seconds to catch up to the sound. Glass. Boots. A door creaking open upstairs. Reese's eyes locked on mine, wide, terrified. Her mouth formed the word I was already thinking. Callan. I grabbed the laptop and yanked the flash drive out. Shoved it into my jacket pocket. Reese stood frozen, trembling like a child caught in a nightmare with no script to escape. Downstairs, I whispered. Now. We ran. Her apartment had a half-basement laundry room through the kitchen, barely lit, half-finished, damp. But it had a back exit. We slipped down the stairs just as the footsteps above shifted, slow now, calculating. Whoever it was knew we were here. Reese's breath hitched as we crouched behind the washer. She clutched my arm like it was the last solid thing in her world. I could feel her heart slamming against her ribs. Cashin, she whispered. What if he? A voice cut through the ceiling like a knife. Low. Familiar. Calm. Reese. I know you're here. And I know you're not alone. Callan. Even saying his name tasted like poison. I don't want to hurt you, he called, walking slowly across the floor. But I will if I have to. You made a choice and choices have consequences. He paused. Then soft laughter. Do you think this ends with you uploading a file to the internet? You think anyone's going to care? She was sick, Reese. She was dying. I did what I had to do. We all did. He was lying half to her, half to himself. That's what monsters do when they start to feel the walls closing in. They romanticize the rot. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Dead. I looked at Reese, she shook her head. Her phone was upstairs. We were trapped. No weapons. No allies. And a man upstairs who'd already killed once, maybe more. Then I remembered the old iron breaker bar I'd seen lean behind the dryer during our last visit. I slipped toward it, slow, silent. Reese squeezed my wrist. We should run, she mouthed. We can't, I mouthed back. He'll find us in the alley. My grip tightened around the cold steel. No more hiding. Footsteps hit the basement stairs. He was coming down. Each creak of the wood echoed like a countdown. I slid behind the furnace. Reese ducked low behind a stack of boxes. Then he appeared. Same face. Same eyes. Callan looked older. Leaner. But still smug, like the world owed him applause for every sin he committed in a lab coat. I just want to talk, he said, stepping down, scanning the shadows. You don't know the full story, Reese. You never did. That girl, the one you're crying over? She was a liability. She was already slipping. Her parents begged me to try something unapproved. I warned them. I wanted to leap from the dark and drive the breaker bar through his mouth. But I waited. Reese, he said again. You don't want to end up like her. And that's when I moved. I lunged from behind the furnace, swung the bar at his ribs. He twisted, just barely dodging, and the bar slammed into the wall. Dust exploded. He turned, grabbed my arm, tried to twist it back. I elbowed him in the throat. He staggered, gasped, and then I saw it. Recognition. Cashin, he choked. You're supposed to be dead. Funny, I spat. So is my sister. He backed up toward the stairs, eyes darting, desperate. I can explain, he started. I swung again. This time, I clipped his shoulder. He yelped, stumbled against the railing. But then, a sharp sound. Click. I turned. Reese was holding a gun. Shaking. Pale. Pointing it at me. Reese, I said. Terror twisted her face. Cashin, stop. Don't make me. You're pointing it at the wrong person. Just let him go. Please. I stared at her. Disbelief. Heartbreak. 1,000 knives all at once. You called me, I said. You showed me the video. You said you wanted justice. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I do. But not like this. He murdered her, Reese. He's not going to stop. You think you're special? He'd throw you under the bus the second he has to. Callan coughed, still crouched, watching us both like a snake waiting for someone to blink. He's manipulating you, I hissed. I don't care, she screamed. And just like that I knew. She still loved him. Maybe not as a brother. Maybe not as anything healthy. But there was a thread in her heart, tangled around him, poisoned and pulsing. Callan laughed. That sick, self-satisfied laugh. You never understood people, Cashin. You thought facts were enough. Truth. Justice. But humans don't run on truth. They run on fear. And need. I stepped forward. Put the gun down, Reese. She didn't move. Please, I said again. Don't protect him. He used you. For a second, the gun trembled. She looked at me, then at him, then back at me. And she lowered it. That's when Callan ran. He shoved her hard, she fell, screaming, and bolted up the stairs. I raced after him, but he was fast. By the time I hit the street, his car was already peeling away. Gone. I drove Reese to a motel an hour out of town. She didn't say much. Just sat there, trembling, wrapped in guilt and something else. Shame. We replayed the video again. This time, I backed it up, looked at the timestamps, the log entries. There were more discrepancies. Not just Lyra. Other patients. Dozens. This wasn't an accident. This was a pattern. An experiment. And then the final piece fell. A name in one of the emails. Dr. Linnea Graves. Head of pharmaceuticals at Halvern General back then. Now, she's the director of research at Echelon Biotech, a private firm. The same firm that just released a new treatment for late-stage CF. A drug suspiciously similar to Thalivax. They're making millions. And Callan's one of the lead consultants. Lyra wasn't just collateral. She was a trial run. And now it's bigger than I ever imagined. Not just one doctor. A whole system. A machine built on silence, secrets, and bodies buried in paperwork. But I'm not running. Not anymore. Because now I know who the real enemy is. And I've got names. Faces. Dates. The question isn't if I'll burn them down. It's who I'll start with. They say once you cross a line, there's no going back. But what they don't tell you is, some lines beg to be crossed. It had been 4 days since Callan vanished. 4 days since Reese lowered the gun, then looked at me like I was the threat. I kept her close after that, not out of trust, but necessity. She knew the people. The protocols. She knew how they covered their tracks. And more importantly, she had access. Access I was going to use. We set up in an abandoned farmhouse outside Grindale. A dead zone. No signal, no surveillance. Just peeling walls, mold in the corners, and silence. Perfect. I started building a wall of names. Doctors. Executives. Trial coordinators. Legal advisors. Lab techs. A twisted family tree. At the center of it, the name that kept burning through everything. Dr. Linnea Graves. The mastermind. She wasn't just a bystander. She was the one who greenlit Thalivax's off-book trials. The one who classified Lyra's death as non-correlated. The one who signed the silence settlements for every grieving parent who took the check and shut their mouth. She was the queen. And I was coming for her crown. Reese sat on the floor, knees to her chest, watching me scribble lines on a map like I was planning a heist. Do you even know what you're doing anymore? She asked. I'm doing what you were too scared to do, I snapped. She looked away. Lyra wouldn't have wanted this. I stopped. Turned slowly. You don't get to speak her name. Her lips trembled. You think this ends with you killing her? Linnea? What then? Headlines? Jail? Another corpse? I walked to her. Knelt. This isn't about justice anymore, I said. It's about truth. People need to know what they did. What they're still doing. And what if the truth gets you killed? I smiled a broken, tired smile. Then at least I'll die with my eyes open. The plan was simple. Reese still had her old Halvern access badge. We'd wait until Dr. Graves gave one of her monthly lectures at the Echelon Institute. Same location. Same time. Every month. The conference hall was open to researchers and guests. Minimal security inside. I wouldn't kill her there. No. I had something better in mind. The night before I couldn't sleep. I sat outside the farmhouse watching the wind crawl through dead grass, feeling the cold crawl into my bones. And I thought about Lyra. The way she used to sing in the car when we'd drive to chemo. Off-key. Loud. Like the disease wasn't eating her from the inside. I remember one time she turned to me and said, "If I die, Cass, just don't let them lie about it." At the time I thought she was scared of being forgotten. Now I know what she meant. She knew. Somewhere deep down she knew what they were doing. The next morning we dressed like interns. Clipboard. Lanyards. Passable fake credentials. Reese kept looking over her shoulder, chewing her lip, every bit the portrait of guilt. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked one last time. I didn't answer. We walked in with the crowd. White walls. Echoes of shoes on tile. The low hum of fluorescent lights. Security scanned our badges. Didn't even blink. The machine was too big to notice the termites crawling up its legs. The lecture hall smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. Dr. Graves stood at the front, tall, elegant, gray-streaked hair pinned into a no-nonsense bun. Polished. Untouchable. She was talking about biological resilience pathways and targeted intervention at the gene expression level. The audience lapped it up. But I didn't hear the science. All I heard was Lyra gasping in the hospital bed. Her skin turning gray. Me screaming at the nurses while Graves buried her death under clinical jargon. I pulled out my phone. Clicked the live button. Reese looked at me, panic blooming in her eyes. Cashin. Too late. I stood up in the middle of the hall. Held the phone high. "Dr. Graves," I said. My voice didn't shake. She paused. Looked over the sea of heads. Her eyes found me. Something flickered. Recognition. And then pure glacial calm. "Yes," she said, like I was just another PhD student with a misplaced footnote. "I have a question," I said. "About Thalivax." You could feel the air shift. Murmurs. Curious glances. Graves didn't flinch. "That trial was sealed by corporate. But you ran it. Off the books. On children. On my sister." A few people gasped. Graves' lips curled. Not quite a smile. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said like it was scripted. She was 14. "Mr. Vell," she said slowly, "you're upset. And clearly misinformed." "Really?" I pulled out the flash drive. "Because I have logs. Emails. Death certificates that don't match autopsies. You want to try that again?" A security guard started walking toward me. Reese froze. Caught between loyalty and fear. I turned the camera to the crowd. "To anyone watching, my name is Cashin Vell. My sister Lyra died because of a drug that wasn't approved, wasn't safe, and wasn't monitored. They tested it on her without consent. They paid to shut us up. And now they're selling it again under a new name, Venivrex." Gasps. Security lunged. They tackled me hard. Phone skidded across the floor. My ribs exploded in pain. But I was smiling. Because I saw Reese pick up the phone and run. Out the door. With the footage. They held me for hours. Threatened charges. Called me a domestic extremist. But eventually they let me go. No proof. No weapon. No confession. Just a lunatic with a broken past. Exactly what they wanted me to be. But that night, it hit the net. Reese uploaded the whole video. It went viral in hours. And the best part? She leaked everything. Emails. Lab records. Internal memos. All of it. We made them bleed. But that's when I realized we'd only wounded the beast. Because the next morning Reese was gone. Her motel room was empty. Sheets untouched. Phone left behind. No signs of a struggle. Just one word, scrawled in marker on the bathroom mirror. Run. There's a moment right after the fire when the world goes so quiet you forget it ever made noise. That's where I've been. Floating in the silence. After Reese vanished, the days melted together. I stayed moving, changing rooms, rotating IDs, barely sleeping. Every time I heard a door creak or tires crunch gravel, I thought it was them. Because I knew how this worked. Halvern had been embarrassed, bled, exposed. They don't sue you when you do that. They erase you. The video hit 7.8 million views before it was taken down. Too late. Dozens of whistleblowers started coming forward. Old staff, former patients, even a nurse who remembered Lyra. She sent me a photo. A vial, marked VX07. That's what they called Thalivax when they tested it on kids. My sister had that barcode on her intake chart. They used her as data. A number. The photo broke something in me I didn't know was left. I stopped running, and I started hunting. Dr. Linnea Graves disappeared from the public eye right after the leak. No more lectures. No press conferences. No trace. But she was still alive. Protected. I tracked one of her assistants. Followed him after a charity event in Eidenrich. He got into a black SUV. Drove northeast. I tailed him for 3 hours until he turned down a gated estate road. Private. Fenced. Hidden in the woods. I climbed the hill across from it and waited. 4 days. Through rain and wind. And on the 4th night, I saw her. Linnea Graves. In a silk robe. Holding a wine glass. Laughing. She looked like retirement. Like peace. And I wanted to ruin it. I broke in on a Tuesday. No guards. No alarms I couldn't handle. I'd studied. She was in the study when I found her. Sitting by the fire. Reading something hardcover and pretentious. Cashin, she said, not even startled. I wondered when you'd show. You're a monster, I said. She stood slowly, placing the book down with deliberate calm. I'm a scientist. You killed my sister. She tilted her head. And hundreds more if that makes you feel better. That hit me like a slap. I took a step forward. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here for justice. She smirked. You already had your moment. The media circus. You leaked your little tantrum. We lost some investors, but Vinavrex is still selling. New branding. New countries. I clenched the vial in my pocket, the one I stole from the assistant's bag. VX07. The same dose they gave Lyra. I pulled it out and showed her. Her eyes flickered. First time she looked unsettled. You wouldn't, she said. I want you to feel what she felt. The seizures. The terror. The helplessness. I never touched your sister. I lunged. She fell hard. Crack of skull on marble. Glass of wine shattering. I pinned her. The syringe was in my hand now. Cap off. You wanted to play God, I whispered. Let's see if God bleeds. Her lips split open as she tried to scream. And then, I hesitated. I saw her face. The lines. The skin. The humanity. And I heard Lyra's voice. Don't become what killed me. My hand shook. I dropped the syringe. Graves lay gasping under me, stunned. I want you alive, I said. I want you to watch what happens next. She started to laugh, blood between her teeth. You think people care? They'll forget. Always do. Not this time. I pulled out the second phone, Reese's old backup. She left it hidden in her motel vent. I'd found it 2 days ago, tracking her scent like a hound. It had one video saved to it. A confession. Not just Linnea. The board. The CFO. The entire pipeline. Reese recorded it the night before she vanished. And I had the full upload ready. I stared at Graves one last time. You should have buried me with her. And then I walked away. I leaked it all. Not just to news stations. I sent it to victims. Forums. Medical boards. Even rogue hacktivists. By morning, Halvern's stock had dropped 68%. Their CEO resigned. The FBI launched an investigation. International trials started unraveling. Graves? She disappeared again. But this time I wasn't looking for her. I'd done my part. 2 months later, I visited Lyra's grave for the first time in a year. I brought sunflowers. She hated roses. Thought they were too full of themselves. I sat down cross-legged. I did it, I whispered. The wind blew gently, rustling the grass. I broke the chain. I thought it was over. But when I got back to my motel, the door was ajar. I walked in slow, cautious. And there, sitting on the bed, alive, breathing, ghost pale but smiling, was Reese. I had to vanish, she said. They were close. I couldn't risk it. But I saw what you did. I collapsed into her arms. We said nothing for a long time. Because sometimes the war doesn't end with explosions. Sometimes it ends with a whisper in the dark. And the quiet relief of still being alive. Epilogue. I didn't get revenge the way I imagined. No blood. No execution. But I got justice. And the machine? It's still out there. Changing masks. changing names. But so am I. And now it knows my name too.